Hello YouTube, this is the F-4 Phantom 2, currently at McConnell Air Force Base, Kansas, with the 388th Fighter Wing. In this video I'll just be doing a quick startup, little bit of a fly around the Wichita area, and come back for a landing and give you all a perspective on this plane. So, starting up procedure, battery, light, turn these up, turn on our nav, taxi, and strobes. Put up the ladder. It's going down. I think that's slightly broken, but that's okay. Going up. These will come up to our engines. Left engine we're going to start first. See the engine moving in there, and it's quite nice. The taxi and landing lights don't work very well, which is unfortunate. The big red button. Here. That engine is starting up. I'll put on the left engine. I just have to move at the right engine. This pump. Here. Left engine started. Our engine instruments. As it hits a little bit before or after 10% RPM, you hit the ignition. Flaps up one notch, and we'll get our canopy down just so it isn't too insanely loud in the cockpit. Set up this to our map, get this to cage, brightness up a bit, the sun's in our eyes, let brightness, looks good. Radar range, we could leave like that. Currently, I turn the weather to completely clear, no wind, so we'll just taxi to the nearest runway, which is the north one, facing south. All of the lights seem to work except for the taxi and landing lights. Then our engine things are started. We can get our generators. Emergency floods. More lights probably want to have bright. Make sure everything's set back there. Your parking brake. Sides and flaps are out. Oxygen is good. We're all set. No, this thing You have to trim a lot, especially on landing. Takeoffs, it's a little bit easier, but on landings you have to trim it a lot. And the speed in the aircraft, in the sim at least, it's a little bit inaccurate. It's like 10 knots off, but it isn't a huge thing because we have our angle of attack indicator lights that help us fly it somewhat nice to the ground. Ground handling's pretty smooth. Honestly, I would say it's pretty fun too. I haven't found a ground speed indicator on this thing, which is normal for aircraft of this time because there isn't really much you can go off of. Just a quick overview of the cockpit. HSI, pretty standard. I haven't fully figured it out just because it's a little, I wouldn't say broken, it's just a little bit different on this aircraft. Radar altitude, angle of attack, dial down here, accelerometer, and our vertical speed, altitude, engine instruments, fuel. This is your hook. Even though there's 3 different versions of the F-4 in terms of A, B, and C for different branches, the cockpit is the complete same. And this was the only plane to do that until the F-35 came out with the F-35A, short takeoff and landing, B and C for the Navy, which has bigger landing gear and bigger wings. Pretty much just a bigger airplane overall. Autopilot's over here. Air-to-air refueling and drop tanks. Parking brake landing gear. Flaps, canopy, and our RAT handle. Rat handle. Oxygen and fuel pressure. If I can get it to work, I might be able to work. Maybe not. Maybe. That gauge down there is broken, but that's okay. If I got the third-party version of this plane, which I'm not exactly sure that there is one, but I'm pretty sure there is one, you'd be able to actually use the weapons. This thing, most of the weapons thing is over here. You have your missile status. And we'll head to the Rio's seat. Find the right buttons. Here's your navigation. You type in these coordinates. They're not exactly longitude and latitude. They're just a little bit different. All your variations, which I guess they do work. I haven't seen a huge difference. More navigation. I think that's supposed to be a second transponder, but you'll see a bunch of buttons. Different radios. Oxygen. Probably want to turn that on from. Breakers. This was also one of the first planes to have a tandem seat. I think this would be your targeting, and this would just be a radar warning lock indicator, whatever RWR thing. A lot more breakers and some audio for your TACAN and navigation frequencies. Come down here to landing lights, turn taxi off. I'm pretty sure if I click this button, nope, I guess it doesn't work anymore, but the wing lights are smoke. I did have a button for it, but I guess it broke. Even though it's a keyboard and it never breaks, parking brake is off. Don't see any traffic that way or that way. I would be using ATC if it was fairly decent, and it is when you're flying by yourself, and like if they make a mistake, it's just a mistake. But when you're making videos, usually I like everything to be somewhat better than just what personal preferences are, and you could never get that with Microsoft's current ATC. The sounds are really good, especially in terms of outside. The cockpit's okay. Quick check over it. You have more weapons down here, hydraulic pressures, pedal adjust, stations, your wave navigation on your HSI. Right now we can just set to attack in. If I can find it. 35 X-ray. I think it's that. Transponder. In the sim, these old transponders don't work, at least the way that I've been using them. So, set to altitude. It says bleed air system for some reason, but it's frame removal, which maybe it is. No C, kind of weird. The ejection handle doesn't work, which is always sad in a fun aircraft like this, but that's fine. Up to around 40-ish%. If it even goes that low, because it idles at like 60, but 40% throttle. Look outside, up, down, left, right, flaps out, speed brakes are going out, speed brakes indicator are over there. If we go right here, there's also a indication panel right there. Nice, down the runway, trim up a bit, pull up at around 150 knots. So when you're landing, do not go below 150 knots, the thing falls like a rock. It's pretty intense during landing. Everything on the outside is pretty good. As I said, if I had the third-party version, I would be able to have the gun pod on the outside, but it's just fuel tanks because some of those, what is it called, policies against weapons, which I mean is, it's good because it's for everybody, I guess, but it's kind of sad that you can't have weapons because I had DCS. I'm kind of too dumb to use it yet, mainly because I just can't figure it out, and because I do not have enough buttons. I'm just using a general aviation setup, since that's what I mainly flying the jets. Just to show you guys around, since these are payware, and then we'll start getting into general aviation when I have time, which is rare. But especially during the holidays, I'll be hopefully giving more knowledge and stuff out. That's the Cessna's field. In real life there would be like thousands of Cessnas and obviously different planes, but just lots of planes on that grass area. Lightman's tack hand is going crazy. Just see if I can find the volume again. There's nav volume, I think. TACAN volumes with the TACANs. It says 0, but I hear it, so I'm just gonna make sure this is down too. Pardon. Currently we are going around 7 or 0.75 Mach, but I personally do not trust this thing at all. On the inside, that's your indicated airspeed, so 550 knots. North, and then we'll turn back around to McConnell. McConnell Air Force Base, I don't think actually did have F-4s, but they had F-105s, and they had an F-4 training squadron, National Guard training squadron. It was the Air National Guard. I don't think it was the reserves. Obviously now they're part of the Air Mobility Command, which is cool in its own right. Obviously back then they had F-105s go to Vietnam, participated in that. We were definitely off our runway by a lot. If I can find it. After 1970s, that's when they started heading towards the tankers and airlifts. Before that, even before the F-105, they had B-29 tankers and B-47s, just like Whiteman. Except for we didn't have B-29 tankers, we had KC-97 tankers. Make sure we get set up for landing here. A little bit up, just a little. Watch our speed. It's the only thing you have to watch in this plane, because it's really easy to fly once you learn how to fly an airplane, and realizing that this thing has the name of an iron dud for a reason, because it's insanely heavy. So it flies very well at high speeds, but very, I wouldn't say sloppy, but it flies different at a really slow speed. Trim a bunch up. As we get 200 knots, I'll deploy the gear a little bit around 200 knots. I did a fun little test yesterday with the F-4. I landed it in a 50-foot field in the sim. And I actually landed. Not even take up the whole 50 feet. It was, I would say, about 30 feet. I had my parking brake on. And we just slammed on the ground. Probably needed to check the gear after that, but I would say that was a cottage cheese landing. My scale is butter. We have cheese. And then you have cottage cheese. Then you have gravel. Then you have rocks. And then you have just death. After rocks is death. It's Ryanair rating. That AOA. Nice donut. Launching the dial now. Max rated climb on this thing is 45 degrees with a little bit less than 50%. Actually, I would say a good amount less. I think it was like 35% fuel. Right now we have around 40% fuel. As I said, we'll just give this a little bit fly. everybody. One of the main things that happened in Wichita that everybody knows it for is its B-29 manufacturing. But after that, Wichita kind of got forgotten, which is sad. Now that we're heading a little bit east, northeast. Zoom out on this. I forgot they have this satellite thing. It's a little bit broken, but let's go up a bit, try to keep some speed. It's hard to tell if you're past Mach 1 without going into the outside camera because this thing's a little bit off. We climb up to, I would say, 30,000 feet. I'll go invert and pull down a bit, throttle all the way back, and then we'll head back to McConnell and in the flight. After that, I'll hopefully start playing my next video on the formation flights in the F-4 Wildcat. No, technically, I shouldn't even say technically, anti-skid was probably supposed to be armed, but nobody saw that. The lowest altitude you can be without making glass shatter severely, what I heard was 25,000 feet. Which is probably still a little bit on the safer side, but I don't know. All I know is most aircraft with those supersonic don't fly under 30,000 feet. Like that one time in the DC area, the F-16 flew over to catch up with that plane. The plane didn't have any criminals, bandits, terrorists, whatever you want to call them, on board. I just think there was a depressurization, which is kind of sad because they crashed, but definitely slowing down. But now that we're at 42,000 feet, just keep it kind of level. Turn a little bit that way. Up just a tad. Stay right here for a second. I do have my G-force set to civilian pilot and how to G-suit, so that's not the only thing I'm saying today. Just sad, I probably should change it. We should change it. Just having fun today with the F-4 flying over the most amazing land of all. There is a wind farm down there. Since there's like absolutely no wind, they're not moving. We're heading back to McConnell. Just go over the flight. Thing handles like a beast. The perfect description. But a very fast F-86 combined with a F-4 Wildcat, not the Phantom. I want to say the first, but one of the technically first Grumman airplanes that really did stuff was the F-4 and then the F-6. Even though that isn't correct, since we gotta see it because they had the most, but Imagine putting that slow big tin can mixed with a very fast, very aerodynamic F-86. So really it's just a heavy F-86. With the very, very new engines, at least at the time, even though they weren't very efficient, as you can see all that fuel spraying off the back. Back then they were really good at getting the aircraft up to speed like this. Next time we fly the F-4, we could go up to, the highest I've got it in the sim is up to 100,000 feet. The record I think was 95,250 feet. I'm not exactly sure, but somewhere around there, and they got up to Mach 2.2, if my brain is correct. Somewhere around there. Did that in the sim, got up to Mach 2.4. That was obviously descending. So I'd say this aircraft is pretty well modeled. One thing that's really nice is just the way this airplane looks. Even though the pedals could maybe have a little bit more wear, or the buttons could definitely look a little bit better than these, I would say it looks pretty good. And the only bad thing about it is the lights. What I mean by that is just the landing lights, that's about it. Everything else, I love this plane. The outside looks really good. If you haven't already noticed, see the text and the Eddie Blue. Slowing down a bit. Always make my videos a little bit longer than they probably should be because I missed my airport, but that's okay. Next video might be about the F-4F or about the P-6, the World War II trainer. I wish I could get my hands on the T6 Texan that is currently in service, turboprop, which is, I think it's a airplane that's pretty much the PC-6 or the PC-12, I can't remember, I'm pretty sure it's the PC-6, but that sounds like an engine to me. Pretty sure that's an engine, I'm not sure. One of the flattest aircraft. I think it was actually made by Textron, but not entirely sure on those brands slash types of aircraft. The Dwight D. Eisenhower and National Airport wasn't made until I think 1956. I think that's a little early, maybe in the 60s. But Connell Air Force Base was also used as a normal just airport until somewhere around the 50s. I didn't do much research because it's mostly about the plane. I just wanted to go into a little bit of local history, even though obviously most of it is probably incorrect. Gives you a general idea if you have no idea what Kansas is, especially for the people who can't find Kansas on the map, which is concerning. Up this way actually, water vapor over the wing. Looks really good. Space is a reason a bit, but that happens with pretty much all the planes in the sim. Which could probably be fixed, but even on Microsoft made or Asobo made an F-18, just the normal version, it does that too. Are coming in a little bit fast, but that's why we got speed brakes. are also really high, but this thing, I've only been able to fly this thing on a proper glide path at a proper speed at the proper angle of attack like a couple of times. It takes some time to get used to this plane, and I haven't flown this plane except for yesterday for like 30 minutes since like a month ago, which is mainly just because I don't have a lot of time at home anymore just because of school. But this landing I'll try to make a little bit faster so we can get on that middle taxiway or somewhere around there. Also just because the video is already half an hour long, which is really insane because this flight's only been like, to me it's only been like 5 minutes, but it's me yapping about nothing. Aircraft has some, if you get the third-party version, everything works, which is really cool considering that some third-party weapon systems don't work at all, which is slightly annoying. Flaps fully down, up a little bit, you're out, trim up, and then I'll push on the yoke, or not the stick a little bit, just because we're going a little bit fast. Speed brakes in, we're past that 150 mark. Never want to go past that mark. I'm already past that 150 mark. Might be somewhat smoother. Little bit of float, and there we go, touchdown. Speed brakes out. Nose loops to stay up, which I'm pretty sure is just because of how much trim you have to put on this thing. We're slowing down. Exit on this taxiway. Turn this off because we don't really need it. I'm off on the end of the taxiway. In the next video, I will show you how to shut down this aircraft. It's everything in the complete opposite order besides starting the engines. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys have an amazing day or night. And Merry Christmas. See y'all.